David, you have had one of the most impressive sales careers that I've ever seen, leading teams at ADP, Outreach, Seismic. I mean, really at top tier companies, and now training companies through the Sales Collective, which the work you guys do is absolutely impressive, and really, really a big fan of it. You said something that was really interesting to me that I want to dive a little bit deeper in, that most sales methodologies are BS. And I want to know what you mean by that.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, appreciate you having me on. Really an honor to be here. And thank you for the kind words and introduction. I look at my career as just another person doing a job. So thank you for the kind words. Yeah. So to me, uh, all sales methodologies are broken. They're all BS. They all kind of lie to you. And they lie to you because of the promise that they go to market making. And I've been trained in pretty much every sales methodology out there. Like, a little bit of my background for your audience, just so they know. I failed in my first two sales jobs. I got fired from my first two sales jobs. And I've gone on to, work and sell and lead over 10,000 deals, generate over, 100 million in revenue for various companies, like you mentioned. But it was rough going for me at the beginning. And so, shoot, almost 20 years ago, I made a conscious decision to become a student of sales. And what that meant to me at the time is, I would, read all the books, find mentors, subscribe to industry trade journals, sit next to great sellers and just watch and listen to what they do. I would become, a student of the game. And I treated, my sales career kind of like a professional athlete would. I put in the hours, I watched the game film, I practiced on the weekends, I did what it took to be successful. And that's kind of why I've had some of the success I have. And through being a student of the game, I challenged myself to learn as much as I could about every, commercial methodology out there. And almost every single one of them, and this is why I say they're lies, bill themselves as the answer. They're the answer. If you deploy this methodology, revenue just rains from the sky and the heavens open up and all things are solved and you just make more money. And look, there's some truth to that. If you deploy the right methodology in the right sales environment against the right customer set to solve the right root cause problem, the methodologies work. However, almost no one does the required research and legwork before they deploy a methodology to figure out if it's even the right methodology to deploy. So people are looking for these silver bullets and they're like, oh, I'm going to deploy Challenger or Gap or Spin or Acklevis or Sandler or Miller Hyman or all of these things. And it's just going to solve my revenue problem. And that's the issue, man. That's why they lie, is because they're really, really good to solve a small piece. But as an example, think of a methodology. All methodologies are build themselves as improving win rates. Every single methodology, commercial methodology out there, we will improve your win rates. Why are you losing? Are you losing because you're not selling to the right buyers? Are you losing because your cost is too high? Are you losing because your team doesn't know how to negotiate? Are you losing because you're not doing deep enough discovery? Are you losing because you're not building business cases? Are you losing because your product isn't where it needs to be? Are you losing because you're deploying an outbound motion when an inbound motion should be deployed, or vice versa? Like, why are you losing? And if you deploy the wrong methodology against a problem, you're not going to get the outcome. And so that's why they're all lies, is because most people don't do the legwork to figure out what is going to be the right thing in the right situation, because they're all designed to solve small problems. None of them are designed to solve it all.
Do you think it's simply a matter of picking the right methodology, or is there more to that story? Is the ones that you mentioned, Miller Hyman, Spin, Challenger, oh, I just need to pick the right one and then I'm good to go? Or is there more that you need to do?
No, there's absolutely more, because solving revenue is not a singular thing. So like, I'm a believer of competency based improvement. I'm again, let's use the sports analogy. If you deploy a methodology and that methodology is like, we are the best at helping you throw the ball farther, Well, great, but maybe your running game sucks. If you deploy a methodology that's like, look, I'm just going to help you hit the ball in golf further off the tee, but your short game sucks and you can't read the green. So, yes, do you need to hit the ball further? Absolutely. But then do you need to work on your short game? For sure. And then you also need to learn how to read the green and everything in between. And you need to work on your mindset related to it. I like the analogy of sports for in sales because I honestly think there's a lot of like really professional growth and overlap and commonalities between these two professions. But if you are struggling, as an example, let's take Challenger as an example. Challenger's commercial teaching methodology, um, even in the book themselves, is based around teach, tailor, take control, specific to executive conversations and specific to complex selling environments. And if your team struggles to drive change within a complex selling environment when specifically speaking to executives, Challenger is a great methodology. But I'm willing to bet that team also struggles with hunting for new business because the enterprise is hard to hunt into. I bet they also struggle with building financial business cases. I bet they also struggle with negotiating large complex deals because procurement is going to beat them up and they don't know how to deal with procurement. I bet they also struggle cross-functionally and internally working with all the different people and teams that they need to work with. And all of those different pieces impact win rates, impact pipeline, impact outcomes. So you can deploy Challenger, and will it solve a piece of that revenue pie in that specific environment I just mentioned? Yes. Will it solve revenue? No, because you're still missing all these other pieces that you need to solve for. And that's what people do. People deploy this one thing, they expect it to solve all of the things, and then they're like, oh, it didn't achieve the outcomes I was looking for. And it's like, one, you had the wrong outcome in mind, and two, you deployed to solve this piece and you were trying to solve this and you didn't actually know what you were solving for.
No, I think that's really interesting, and also the type of companies that I'm sure you work with, and the type of companies Lean Scale work with, um, oftentimes they're under a lot of pressure to grow really quickly. They'll bring on a CRO or VP of sales who's there to build the team, build the process, scale it. We also know the average shelf life of a CRO is around 18 months. So they usually don't have a long time to, lay the foundation and let some of those things settle in. Um, for those type of companies, they're VC backed, pressure to grow quickly. Is there something unique about that environment that makes them want to latch on to one of these methodologies and use one of these as the silver bullet?
Yeah, I would argue. So let's answer the question first. Is there something that gets them to latch onto it? Yes. It's typically a PE VC friend, cousin, sisters, uncles, brothers who's a sales leader at some company who deployed the thing, and it's a much bigger company, an advisor. Somebody is telling them to do it. And I would argue when you are that young of an organization, you shouldn't be deploying any methodologies at all because you've got so many problems to solve.
I just think that's really interesting because I think maybe a lot of people's opinions are, hey, even if you have one salesperson, you should have a methodology. Do you have an idea of maybe how big the team is, how much revenue they're doing? Is there a certain trigger point where you say, hey, now's the time you want to get more repeatable with your sales process and maybe adopt or tweak a methodology?
Yeah, again, methodologies are there to create a degree of standardization, a degree of rigidity, a degree of common language, and they're there to solve a specific problem. And when you are a younger company, you don't need rigidity. You need flexibility. You don't need to solve a specific problem. You need to solve all the problems, and they're constantly changing. And it's like all the things all at once, all the time is like most startups. And so, you know, it's to me, we need to go back to fundamentals. We need to go back to solving the issues at hand. Uh, a methodology will not solve revenue problems. A methodology will help take things that are likely already working and create scale and standardization and repeatability and common language around them. But in startups, you don't have a lot of that. You have so much that you need to figure out. And like, let's just go back to your point of these companies that, hire a CRO, VP sales, and expect them to do all the things. One, I unless you've got two, three, four, five sellers that are already paying for themselves and things are already starting to work, hiring a VP of sales is one of the worst things you can do, because all you're going to do is increase your burn rate. And that person is going to be charged with doing too much. And that person is going to be expected to build process. But if things aren't working, then what are you building process around? You're likely building process around the wrong things. You're trying to scale the wrong things. You're documenting the wrong things. You're going to onboard people into the wrong things. And so, I'm a believer for any company out there that's like in this like startup world of the first, few salespeople, is, it's your job to get those first few salespeople successful by any means possible. And then hire another and have those salespeople and you see if you can ramp them using the same systems and processes and things that you have in place. And once you can do that a few times successfully and repeatably, now cool, hire a leader. That leader then can watch the team that's doing it successfully and start to document things and start to hire more people and start to scale into a system that has been somewhat proven. But I've seen time and again companies hiring, or VCs or PE or whoever that's backing them or advising them, saying hire a revenue leader to figure all this out and have them build all this stuff. And they don't give them enough time to figure it out, because they give them, 3, 6, 9 months. And to your point, average tenure is 18 months. That's average. Like I see most gone within a year.
Yep.
And most gone are within a year because they were charged with doing too much and they didn't get results fast enough. And really all the business needed was to get those one or two salespeople to be successful. And you can do that fractionally, or you can do that just as a CEO pouring their love and their heart into the people they hired, and actually getting them to a point where they can be successful before growing it. So there's a lot to unpack with the statement you made there, but there's a lot of things that people do wrong in that environment.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I just think it's a really challenging environment because you do have the pressure to grow quickly, but you may be doing things that are a little inorganic at the time, and then it's not the right time to bring on some of these people. At Lean Scale, we talk about the future of a lean startup, especially with a remote workforce and bringing in AI capabilities. You can keep your team really lean for a much longer period of time.
Absolutely.
And we also think about the build order. So, who are the hires and in which order do you bring people into your startup? And we think that the founder led sales era of a business should be extended as long as possible. So, like you said, bring in a couple reps, see what's working well, see what's not working well. Make it an environment where you do have the ability to test what's working, what's not working, and you're not investing so much into one bet over the other. And if the founder can't sell, then don't expect anybody else to.
So yeah, if the founder can't sell with their love and passion, and they built the company to solve a problem they hopefully deeply cared about, they can't convince people with their title and their passion and their story. Yeah, no one else is going to be able to. That's beyond true. And to your point, I same believer. Founder should sell as long as humanly possible. Then hire one salesperson and just pour into them everything and get them to a point where they're paying for themselves and hopefully starting to even pay for a second body. Then hire that second salesperson, do it again, hire third, do it again. Cool. Now you've shown repeatability. Now we can start documenting success. Now we can start potentially hiring leaders to grow teams. Now we can start doing, all the creating sustainable growth things. But if you can't even get one, if you are the founder and you can't get even one person to replicate what you've done, you do not have a sustainable, scalable business that you can build all these other things from. Like you have to get that piece right.
Right. And don't expect to outsource it to a CRO and expect them to be able to do it if you can't.
No, absolutely not. No, I understand if you're like a technical founder and have zero sales ability, but even then, like I wouldn't be hiring a CRO because they're going to spend but this is what people get wrong about CROs and VP sales and some of these early stage titles, depending, you know, they've hopefully been leaders and they hopefully are leaders. And most leaders are really good at leading others. They're coaches. They don't necessarily have the passion and desire to get back in the trenches and do all the things that they did 15, 20 years earlier in their career. Do they know how to do it? Could they do it? Yeah. Do I know how to like build lists and make calls and like could I do that all day long? Yeah, I absolutely could. Would I enjoy my life? No, absolutely not. And that's the problem with joy. Like if you can do something but you don't enjoy it, you're going to get burnt out really, really quickly, and you're going to, and you're going to leave or you're going to avoid the task. And that's what a lot of founders don't realize. They look at someone and they're like, oh, this person could hunt, close, build process, do all these things. They could be like my Swiss Army knife, jack of all trades. They can do it all. And it's like, yeah, they could. And they'll probably even lie to you and say that they will. But then they're going to step back into it and they're going to realize, oh, wait, I haven't done this in like 15 years. And even though I thought I could do it, I really don't want to do it. And I really want to do all this other fun stuff that I really enjoy doing more, that I've been doing in the last, however many years of my career. And then they just focus on that and don't do that. And if they're not bringing in revenue, it's like they're building the plane, but you need outcome and nothing's happening. And then they get fired. And because you hired the wrong person to do the wrong things, even though you thought they could, it's happens all the time.
Yeah, no, I think it's a classic early stage mistake, especially bringing in people from bigger companies, and you get enamored with big logos that they've been at, and think that they can help you bridge a gap from where you are to get there. And no, it's just a wrong fit for where you are. It's not the right stage fit.
Yeah. Let's bring in the
Um,
person from Salesforce that has all the resources, all the budget, all the money, all the brand, and all the things, and put them into a really, really small environment and expect them to somehow get, yeah, yeah. So,
right. Yeah, they're doing a different job than the job you need done.
yeah, even though it's the same title, it's completely different. Yeah.
So, okay, we know sales methodologies aren't a one size fits all. Um, there's not one methodology that's applicable to every company and every sales motion. We know that's not the whole story. So, for early stage companies, let's say the ones that are in that Series A, Series B um, kind of growth stage, what is the full picture and how do you recommend going about that process? And I know this is a lot of the type of work you do at Sales Collective as well. Um, so maybe just giving us a little bit of a peek behind the curtain of how that works and what you tend to focus on to help them set the right foundation.
Yeah, and let me tell my a little bit of my founder story here, and I don't want to pitch the Sales Collective too hard. Like everything I'm about to say, you and any of your listeners could absolutely do themselves. I've just happened to build like some turnkey ways to make it like super easy, but I. I, I learned all of this through the hard lessons. So like you mentioned my career, and like yes, I worked for some really really big companies, and then I worked for some hyper growth startups and unicorns and things like that. And but I've also worked in for lesser known and companies that were seed round, and where I was the first CRO, and I had like one or two salespeople, and we were trying to figure out product market fit and all those things, and I've failed in those environments at times, and I've learned a lot. I'm proud that I've probably worked at every stage of revenue growth that exists, from bootstrapped, like thousands of dollars, to bringing them to millions, to multi-billion dollar leading 100 plus people teams. Like I've worked at all the levels. And one of the things that I really really believe is true, and I have found very few people that argue with me on this, is that to get sales right, you need the right people sitting in the right seats on the bus. There's an adage like, it doesn't matter what seat you have on the rocket ship, just get on the rocket ship. And that's like total bullshit. Like, no, you need to have the right people in the right seats, because that's where motivation, that's where job fulfillment, that's where joy in the role come into play. Like if you've got, someone who really, really loves, leading people in an individual contributor role, I don't care like if they could do the job, they're just not gonna be happy with it. Like that's just fact. So like you're the right people sitting in the right seat, onboarded and developed early in the company in the right ways, trained then long term to points of mastery. You need to get the people, the seat, the onboarding, and the long-term development right. You have to get all those pieces right. And then you also need to layer on top of that, quality leadership leading that team. Because even if you get all those pieces right, if you've got shit leadership on top of them, which often happens, unfortunately, those great people are going to hate their lives and leave. And so you need to get all the pieces right. And I get very few people arguing with me that you need to get all the pieces right. But then here's what happens. They hire someone and they don't actually assess for performance. They just hire warm bodies, or they hire the cool resume, and they don't have an onboarding manual. They don't have a ramp up plan. Their leaders don't coach them. They don't train them in sales specific skills, and they essentially just leave them to figure it out. They provide them tools and tech and bodies, and that's it. And so that's what people need to be doing to get these things right. They need to get all of it right. They need to behave properly in all of these different areas. And that's what I've built the Sales Collective to do, is because when I see companies just deploy, motivational training, which is like one size fits all 3 days, it fails. When they just hire warm bodies, it fails. When they just, throw process documents at people, but they don't train them and enable them properly, it fails. Like, you have to get every piece right. And so that's what I've designed, is kind of this holistic ecosystem where I use an assessment that's been taken by 2.5 million salespeople that assesses them on all the core competencies in sales against the benchmark top 1%. So I help them figure out how to hire people right. Because if you hire an A player, life gets way easier than hiring a bunch of B players. So hire A players to start, put them in a system that has been documented to work, and then train them long-term on their skill gaps, not one-size-fits-all methodology, on their unique skill gaps. Build coaching plans for them, install good leadership over them, get all those pieces right, and you will create sustainable growth, but you have to get it all right.
I can't just pick Challenger and implement it and I'm good to go. I have to do all the hard work.
Feel free. Silver bullets. Don't such thing. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. And I like how you are touching quite a bit on the people component. I think a lot of founders think of like a Salesforce as just an army of, sales robots that will go out, follow the process, follow the method, close the deals. We know there is a numbers component to this. You have to build enough pipeline. You got to convert well, but you have to have good people and the right people, and the people who are passionate about what they're doing. And I also like what you mentioned about whoever the leader is. You could be working at the coolest tech company with the brightest future. If your boss sucks, that job sucks, and you're going to want to look somewhere else.
Yeah, I unfortunately have had 2 to 3 really atrocious leaders in my career, and all of them happened during org changes. One, I was with one company. I was with ADP for 6 years. One of the great experiences in my life. Made millions while I was there. It was awesome. All the clubs, all the trips, all the things. I led a top performing team, number one team actually in all of ADP one year. It was really just a fantastic point in my career. And I had a great leader. His name was Jeff Walker, and Jeff and I were buddies. Like, he would be there. He told me the tough news. He told me the things I needed to hear when I needed to hear him. It was tough love, but it was great leadership. And we were also friends, and he showed up as a leader I needed in all these different moments. And it was really just fantastic relationship. And we worked together for 5 of the 6 years. And then Jeff left the organization. There was an org change. They installed a leader above me. I was still leading the top performing team at the time, and this guy was just an asshole. And I just absolutely hated life. And even though I was leading the top team with a team that I love, that I'd been with for a long time, that we did really good work, this guy was never happy. He would always, beat us up that, you're only winning because your quota is too low. It's like, well, you set the fucking quota. Excuse me. You set the quota. So why are you saying it's too low? Like, it would always be an excuse. Wins were never celebrated. Every problem was highlighted in microscope. It was just a terrible environment. And I ended up leaving, even as a top performer and leading a top performing team. I left because I was miserable. And that's what people don't realize. Like, you can do all the things right, but man, you get a bad leader and you just destroy everything.
And it's the good ones who leave because they have options. So
yeah, your best people, without question. Your best people leave first.
Yeah. Well, I think This has been really illuminating for me. I think I'm a process systems type of person, so I even fall into the just trap of being having such an affinity towards some methodology and feeling like that's going to solve the problems. That gives me a lot of comfort. And to your point, like it's not bad too. Let's find the right methodology that fits your sales process, but it's really just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more that you need to do. Um, and don't expect it to solve all the problems like they're selling these methodologies will. Um, the job is much harder. It's much harder, it's much more dynamic, and there's so much more to do. But I think all the examples that you gave and everything has really given me a totally different perspective on how to think of that part of the sales org.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Hopefully, it helps anybody listening. And I'm always here for anybody that heard it and they're like, "How the heck do I do some of these things?" Like, just reach out to me on LinkedIn or really wherever. Like, I get out of bed every day to just help salespeople solve sales challenges and companies solve big revenue problems. So like, I'm here for you.
Love it. Well, we'll make sure to get a link to get in contact with you in the description of the video. David, thank you so much for being on today. Really appreciate it and hope to have you on again in the future.
Awesome, Anthony. Thanks for having me, man. Thanks, everybody.